multi-sport event held every year after the Southeast Asian Games, involving athletes with disabilities from 11 Southeast Asian countries. Participating athletes have a variety of disabilities, ranging from spasticity, cerebral palsy, mobility impairments, visual impairments, intellectual disabilities, and amputations. The ASEAN Para Games is under the regulation of the ASEAN Para Sports Federation, with supervision by the International Paralympic Committee and the Asian Paralympic Committee. It is traditionally hosted by the country where the Southeast Asian Games is taking place. In 2022, the ASEAN Para Games was held in Solo, Indonesia from 30th July to 6th August. Cambodia sent a total of 115 athletes to compete in 11 sporting categories, including swimming, men's and women's wheelchair basketball, seven-a-side football, table tennis, badminton, weightlifting, chess, and more. At the end of competition, Cambodian athletes won a total of 28 medals, including 7 gold, 10 silver, and 11 bronze, across 7 different sports. This is the most medals Cambodia has ever won at any ASEAN Para Games since it was first established in 2001. Cambodia broke its own record in 2013 in Myanmar, where it won 9 medals in total, 3 gold, 4 silver, and 2 bronze. With 28 medals, Cambodia is ranked 7th in the region, while Indonesia, the host, came first with 177, Thailand came second with 117, and Vietnam came third with 64. So just to recap, this is the live stream of the official receiving ceremony of the ASEAN Para Games. The 11th Para Games just concluded in Indonesia, and now the 12th Games is set to begin next year in 2023 in Cambodia. So Cambodia is hosting both the 32nd Southeast Asian Games and the ASEAN Para Games, as it is traditionally so that the host country that is hosting the Southeast Asian Games will also host the ASEAN Para Games. And today the athletes are going to be returning from Solo, Indonesia, along with the national representative, who is Mr. Hun Mani. And when they arrive, there will be a short ceremony at the airport here, Phnom Penh International Airport, where they will officially be receiving the flag for the Para Games and kicking off now the start for Cambodia's turn to host the Para Games here in the city of Phnom Penh and in Cambodia. So as you can see from the footage, this is the airport, and they're just waiting now for the athletes to arrive. And we also do have a correspondent on the ground who we will check in with soon. And we are now just covering this ceremony and waiting for the athletes to arrive so that we can see the actual flag here on Cambodian soil, and to also possibly hear a few words from the representatives as well. And of course, to also congratulate the athletes who won 28 medals, breaking the national record. And the previous record was 9 medals, which was won in Myanmar in 2013. So Cambodia winning 28, it was a huge success, as they were able to beat their previous record by 19 medals. That's an amazing improvement, and of course a great honor for the nation. And the Cambodia ranked 7th in the region, actually. So they did quite well at this year's ASEAN Para Games. And the hopes are that next year, Cambodia will do even better. It is, of course, a known fact, too, that whichever host country is hosting the games, they do tend to do better because they do have a home advantage. And next year, Cambodia will be hosting both the Southeast Asian Games and the ASEAN Para Games. Regarding the Southeast Asian Games, the 32nd SEA Games, there is now, I believe, less than 300 days till the games begin. So Cambodia's turn to host is coming up very soon. There is actually an official countdown as well for the games that you can see online from the official social media and the official channels. And now we will be catching up with our correspondent on the ground, our reporter Hun Srewat, who is there at Phnom Penh International Airport. So hi, Srewat. How is it going over there?
Yes, it's good. And with the weather, we can see it, even they nearly land, but the people are coming here one by one. We can see the official are coming here, and they're waiting for in the VIP room, waiting for the the Cambodia delegate and also the Cambodia athletes coming to the Phnom Penh International Airport, and we can see the many reporter, journalists, also the Cambodia traditional band, the traditional dancer are waiting for the Cambodia delegate, also the athlete coming with the Asian Para Olympic Games to the Cambodia. This is the historical moment, and we will hear the speak from the Minister of Defense, also the chairman of the Asian Game 2023, Tia Banh, will be delivering the short speech about the historical events today. And after he delivered the speech, the flag and also the athlete will be paraded across the Phnom Penh before goes to the Olympic Committee in Olympic Stadium Phnom Penh.
Okay, thank you, Sariwat. So you were saying that there is a few people now waiting there, and you mentioned the Defense Minister, Deputy Prime Minister Tia Banh, who's there. Who else is there? Would you be able to tell us there to greet the athletes when they arrive on the tarmac?
I haven't seen them yet.
This is the weekly roundup on EAC News Channel, your look back at the past week in the Kingdom of Wonder. A very good evening, I'm Darshana Gochan. Prime Minister Hun Sen has congratulated 3 Cambodian Taekwondo athletes who won gold medals at the 2022 World Police and Fire Games in the Netherlands. Additionally, Cambodia has also won at least 2 gold medals so far at the ASEAN Para Games being held in Indonesia. On Sunday afternoon, Prime Minister Hun Sen posted a congratulatory message on his Facebook page, saying congratulations to the 3 Cambodian WT Taekwondo athletes who got gold medals at the 2022 World Police and Fire Games in the Netherlands. He further wrote, "This is the pride of our whole nation. All the 3 WT Taekwondo athletes participating in the 2022 World Police and Fire Games in the Netherlands from 26 to 31st July got gold medals." On Saturday, Taekwondo athletes Sam Yudet and Va Mitona obtained gold medals, and the following day, athlete Phal Sovanat triumphed and added another gold medal to Cambodia's tally. The World Police and Fire Games is an international sporting event for police, fire, customs, and corrections service personnel, according to the Games' official website. More than 10,000 athletes from 70 different countries came to compete in 63 sports in 2022. Over in Southeast Asia, the ASEAN Para Games kicked off on Saturday, and Cambodia has so far managed to win 2 gold medals. The first was won by the Cambodian women's wheelchair basketball team, who defeated the team from Thailand 7-5 in Solo City, Indonesia. The second gold medal was won in women's long jump by Vit Chanta. According to the Cambodia SEA Games Organizing Committee, as of Monday, 1st of August, Cambodia has won 3 medals in total. 2 gold in women's wheelchair basketball and long jump, and 1 additional bronze medal. At this year's ASEAN Para Games, 115 athletes from Cambodia have been sent to compete in 11 sporting categories, including swimming, men's and women's wheelchair basketball, 7-a-side football, table tennis, badminton, weightlifting, chess, and more. During the 9th ASEAN Para Games in Malaysia, Cambodia won 5 silver and 5 bronze medals, while the 10th edition of the Games in the Philippines was cancelled due to COVID-19. 2,000-year-old statues of Lord Shiva, which disappeared from Cambodia in 1998, have been paraded and returned from the National Museum of Phnom Penh to its original location in Banti Chamar Temple in Banti Minche Province on Saturday, 30th July. The procession of the 2 Lord Shiva statues was attended by officials of the Ministry of Culture and many other senior officials. The president of Banti Chamar Tourism Community, Mao Si, told EAC News that there were a total of 8 statues missing from the temple. Now that 2 have been returned, 6 still remain to be found. The director of the Banti Minche Provincial Department of Culture and Fine Arts, Yong Tang Kui, also confirmed to EAC News that the statues were erected in the late 12th and early 13th centuries. He said, the statues of Lord Shiva disappeared in 1998 after smugglers stole and took them to Thailand. In 2000, the royal government of Thailand found and returned the statues to the royal government of Cambodia, keeping them at the National Museum in Phnom Penh until now. With the help of Deputy Prime Minister Kai Kim Yan, the statues have now been returned to their original home. The president of the National Assembly of Cambodia, Heng Samrin, has stressed the importance of the contribution of the Vietnam-Cambodia Friendship Association to strengthen the relationship and cooperation between the two countries, becoming more stable in the long run. He has urged the association to further reinforce its activities and cooperation. National Assembly President Heng Samrin met with the president of the Vietnam-Cambodia Friendship Association, Nguyen Thi Thanh, at the National Assembly on Tuesday morning. During the meeting, he stressed that the Vietnam-Cambodia Friendship Association plays an important part in contributing to the strengthening of long-term ties and cooperation between the countries, in accordance with the wishes of the two countries' leaders. He also congratulated the party, state, and people of Vietnam on the achievements made in their socio-economic development. The National Assembly President further encouraged the Friendship Association to continue strengthening and expanding its activities and cooperation in key areas other than social and humanitarian, including in the economy, in trade, education, science, and so on. The president of the Vietnam-Cambodia Friendship Association congratulated Cambodia's steady development despite the circumstances brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. Taking the opportunity, she reported the recent developments in Vietnam, the work of the Vietnamese National Assembly, and the cooperation between the Vietnam-Cambodia Friendship Association to the Cambodian National Assembly president. She stressed that Vietnam, like Cambodia and other countries around the world, has suffered from the COVID-19 pandemic. In 2021, Vietnam's GDP grew by 3%, but in the first 6 months of 2022, Vietnam's GDP grew by 7%, so the country's economy is in the process of recovery from the pandemic. President Heng Samrin said he considers the current visit of Nguyen Thi Thanh as part of the celebration of the 55th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Cambodia and Vietnam, along with various units and institutions of the two countries that have been holding and organizing various programs to celebrate this milestone. Prime Minister Hun Sen has urged officials to find work that solves problems for the people, rather than to sit and wait for the work to come to them. He commented that officials must listen to the people and accept their requests and opinions in order to formulate policies properly. Prime Minister Hun Sen made a post on his official Facebook page on Tuesday morning, recalling his activities related to meeting directly with farmers who have helped the government formulate policies to improve food security in Cambodia. He wrote, "Communication between the people and the Prime Minister has made the forum a success. We have addressed the people's requests not only in agriculture, but we have also addressed schools, roads, bridges, ponds, wells, pagodas, and much more." From a country that lacked about 1 million tons of rice in the 1990s and early 2000s, we now have more than 6 million tons of rice left, along with other agricultural crops that have grown significantly, enabling us to meet domestic demand and exports as well. The Prime Minister's post was accompanied by a picture of him in his 40s, meeting with a farmer while wearing a sweaty blue shirt. He further added, "Listen to the people, talk and accept the people's reasonable requests. Only then can we formulate the right policies. Be a 2-legged officer, not a 10-legged officer, and run towards the work. Do not wait for the work to run towards us." Prime Minister Hun Sen first took office as the Foreign Minister of Cambodia in 1979 at the age of 27. He became Prime Minister in 1985 and has held the position until the present date, making him one of the longest-serving Prime Ministers in the world. The Ministry of Rural Development has announced that rural water supply and sanitation covers more than 80% of Cambodia so far. Furthermore, this coverage rate is expected to reach 100% in 2025. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has more.
In the progress report released by the Ministry of Rural Development on the past 5 years from 2018 to 2022, it is stated that the Ministry built more than 10,000 wells, more than 1,000 community ponds, more than 2,000 rainwater ponds storing more than 10,000 litres of water, and distributed more than 140,000 rainwater filter jars to the public. In addition, the Ministry built 67 community water production stations, 330 water treatment stations, and concentrated nearly 20,000 water treatment systems and tanks. More than 20,000 drinking water tanks were distributed to people in the community. Water tanks were built in 33 schools, 128 small irrigation systems, and 13 irrigation pumping stations were also installed. Additionally, nearly 3 million people were educated on the use and keep of clean water. At the same time, nearly 500,000 rural latrines were built, boosting the cessation of open defecation in 60% of target villages. The report further notes, nowadays people in rural areas generally have access to basic services, good hygiene, a clean environment and comfort. At the same time, rural people also have the access to better rural water and sanitation services, contributing to support of the rural government in promoting good and health nutrition. The Secretary of State and spokesperson for the Ministry of Rural Development, Trun Tevaravat, has said that the rural government has already set a goal to achieve 90% supply of clean water across Cambodia by 2023 and by 2025 to fully achieve 100% clean water supply. However, he said that the COVID-19 outbreak will likely have delayed the implementation of this plan. He said, "I can briefly answer to our goal by 2025 to achieve 100%. ODF may be a little late, the reason being COVID-19 factor. COVID-19 only affects the development barriers of our goals, but it also affects the structure of the whole, both the participation of partner organisations and the participation of the people." The Ministry of Rural Development has set 2025 as the year in which all people living in rural areas will have access to clean water, sanitation and hygienic environment to live in, enshrined in National Plan for Clear Water Supply and Sanitation Promotion Rural Sanitation between 2014 and 2025. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has emphasized the relationship between Cambodia and Vietnam as being a good, interdependent, and friendly relationship. In this sense, the Prime Minister said that the progress made by Vietnam has also boosted the progress of Cambodia. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has the details.
Speaking at a meeting with a member of the National Assembly Standing Committee and the President of the Vietnam-Cambodia Friendship Association, Nguyen Thi Thanh, and the Peace Palace on Tuesday morning, Prime Minister Hun Sen said he has been working with the Vietnam-Cambodian Friendship Association since 1979 and further praised the progress made by the Vietnam, which has contributed to Cambodia's process as well. He said, due to the good relations between the two countries, Cambodia has received a lot of Vietnamese investors, as well as cooperation in other fields, including energy. Vietnam is an important market for the agriculture exports from Cambodia. The trade volume of the two countries has reached more than $10 billion, which is a huge size. Ms. Nguyen Thi Thanh said that Cambodia has prospered due to the leadership of Prime Minister Hun Sen, and she noted that the country's progress was due to the right policies and vision of his management of the government. She said Cambodia's progressive development under the leadership of Samdech Techo Prime Minister Hun Sen includes controlling the spread of COVID-19 and the economic recovery of Cambodia as most important factors. She also congratulated the good diplomatic relations between the two countries, especially as 2022 marks the 55th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Cambodia and Vietnam, and the 45th anniversary of the overthrow of the genocidal regime Pol Pot. Cambodia and Vietnam established diplomatic relations 55 years ago in 1967. However, following Cambodia's liberation from Khmer Rouge regime, the relationship became more cooperative and mutually supportive today. The two governments consider each other as good friends, brothers and neighbours. The Socialist Republic of Vietnam ranks first among ASEAN countries in terms of direct investment in Cambodia, with the trade between the two countries exceeding $9 billion in 2021. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
The The Secretary of State and spokesperson of the Ministry of Health, Dr. Au Van Dien, has said that the Nigerian man found positive for monkeypox has still not recovered from the disease and is continuing his hospitalization. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has more.
As from 10 p.m. on Monday, the 1st of August, the patient identified as 27-year-old Osman Chinzamarin from Nigeria has still yet to test negative for monkeypox, according to Dr. Au Van Dien. Additionally, she said that all 5 people who had direct contact with him are still asymptomatic and continue to be quarantined at their homes with regular follow-ups. Osman Chihamazarim first tested positive for monkeypox in Thailand, where he fled from the medical treatment facility and came to Cambodia on the 22nd of July. Cambodian authorities located him in Phnom Penh one day after on the 23rd of July, and he was immediately transported to the Khmer Soviet Friendship Hospital for treatment. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
The United States killed al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri in a strike in Afghanistan over the weekend. President Joe Biden said on Monday, the biggest blow to the militant group since its founder Osama bin Laden was killed in 2011.
Zawahiri, an Egyptian surgeon who had $25 million bounty on his head, helped coordinate the September 11, 2001 attacks that killed nearly 3,000 people. US officials speaking on the condition of anatomy said Zawahiri died after a US drone strike in Afghan capital Kabul at 6:18 a.m. or 0148 GMT on Sunday. Now, justice has been delivered and this terrorist leader is no more. Biden, who is recovering from COVID-19, said in remarks from the White House, "No matter how long it takes, no matter where you hide, if you're a threat to our people, the United States will find you and take you out." US intelligence determined with high confidence through multiple intelligence streams that he was the man that was killed was Zawahiri. One senior administrative office told reporters he was killed on the balcony of his safe house in Kabul that he shared with other members of his family. There were no other casualties. Biden said Zawahiri had been with mastermind behind played a key role in the attacks of USS Cole and the US embassies in Kenya and Tanzania. Zawahiri continued to pose an active threat to US persons, interests and national security. The official said on the conference call, his death deals a significant blow to the al-Qaeda and will degrade group's ability to operate. The drone attack is the first known US strike inside Afghanistan since US troops and diplomats left the country in August 2021. The move may bolster the credibility of Washington's assurance that the United States can still address threats from Afghanistan without military presence in the country.
China has reportedly raised the stakes in its row with Washington over U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's planned trip to Taiwan, saying it may respond militarily if the California Democrat goes through with the visit. The latest warnings were privately issued to members of President Joe Biden's administration, the Financial Times reported on Sunday, citing 6 unidentified people familiar with the matter. The statement was significantly stronger than the warnings that Chinese officials have given in the past over controversial U.S. actions or policy decisions related to Taiwan. Today, East Asia is the scene of a sharp confrontation between 2 major nuclear powers, the United States and China. The situation is worsening as the Americans execute plans to contain Beijing. The key point of contention fueling these tensions is the Taiwan Strait. In recent years, Washington has increased its supply of weapons and military equipment to the island, while assisting in revamping the armed forces of Taiwan and strongly encouraging the local government's desire for independence. Taiwan holds extremely important geopolitical significance for the U.S. and China, representing part of the first island chain stretching from the Aleutian Islands in the north through Japan and the Philippines to the Greater Sunda Islands in the south. It is this Pacific frontier that both Washington and Beijing have defined as their main line of defense. The politicians in power on Formosa, which means beautiful in Portuguese and is a name that prevailed in Western cartography until the 20th century, in recent years have consistently pursued a policy of strengthening ties with the U.S., which is fully consistent with Washington's anti-Chinese rhetoric. The leadership of the People's Republic of China has repeatedly made it clear that actions violating the One China policy are unacceptable. This also goes for the provisions of the 3 joint U.S.-Chinese communiques of 1972 to 1982, which form the basis of the countries' bilateral relations. However, any conflict between Washington and Beijing would not be a small victorious war for either side. Even if the PRC fails to quickly capture Taiwan, it will persist in fighting U.S. forces in the Asia-Pacific region. On the other hand, even if the island is lost, the Pentagon won't curtail its operations because all of its previous efforts would be meaningless if it doesn't neutralize the potential of the Chinese military. In December 2021, Foreign Affairs magazine warned Washington and Beijing that a conflict over Taiwan could prove ruinous for both themselves and most East Asian countries, since the main participants could use nuclear weapons to change the situation in their favor if faced with defeat. A senior Taiwanese government official and U.S. official have stated that U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is expected to visit Taiwan on her current Asia tour. China, which considers Taiwan to be a part of its territory, has made repeated warnings to the U.S. against Pelosi's visit to the island. However, the U.S. said on Monday that it would not be intimidated and that the U.S. House Speaker has every right to visit Taiwan if she plans. Speaker Nancy Pelosi arrived in Singapore on Monday to start her Asia tour. Previously, it was reported by separate sources that she would be visiting Taiwan on Tuesday. Meanwhile, Malaysian state media has also reported Pelosi's arrival in Kuala Lumpur on Tuesday, scheduled to meet the Malaysian Prime Minister and Parliament Speaker. It has, however, also been reported that a source close to Speaker Pelosi's entourage said she would not be staying in Kuala Lumpur overnight and would likely be heading to the airport in the evening. Her delegation's public itinerary does not include an official stop in Taiwan, but China remains serious about its warnings and has raised the stakes by saying it may respond militarily if Pelosi goes through with the visit. Reuters has reported that several Chinese warplanes flew close to the median line dividing the Taiwan Strait on Tuesday, along with several Chinese warships that have remained close to the line since Monday. China's United Nations ambassador Zhang Jun said on Monday that Speaker Pelosi's visit to Taiwan would undermine the relationship between China and the United States, telling a news conference that such a visit is apparently very much dangerous, very much provocative. Also on Monday, China warned that its military would not sit idly by if it felt that its sovereignty and territorial integrity were being threatened, with Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian saying, "We would like to tell the U.S. once again that China is standing by and the Chinese People's Liberation Army will never sit idly by. China will take resolute responses and strong countermeasures to defend its sovereignty and territorial integrity." U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said after delivering remarks at the United Nations on nuclear proliferation that Speaker Pelosi's decision to visit Taiwan would be entirely her own. However, he called on China to avoid escalating tensions even further if she does end up visiting the island. He said, "If the speaker does decide to visit and China tries to create some kind of crisis or otherwise escalate tensions, that would be entirely on Beijing." He further added that the U.S. are looking for China in the event she decides to visit to act responsibly and not to engage in any escalation going forward.
If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
The 2022 ASEAN Chair, Prime Minister Hun Sen, has expressed disappointment over the Myanmar military's decision to go through with the execution of 4 opposition activists. He said this would force ASEAN to reconsider the implementation of the 5-point consensus if such executions continue. Speaking at the opening ceremony of the 55th ASEAN Ministerial Meeting on Wednesday morning at the Soka Hotel in Phnom Penh, Prime Minister Hun Sen said that while the implementation of the 5-point consensus for Myanmar has not progressed, the execution of 4 opposition activists last week by Myanmar authorities made the situation even worse than before the 5-point consensus had been made. He said, Cambodia, along with all ASEAN members, is deeply disappointed and horrified by the execution of these opposition activists, despite I and other leaders calling for a reconsideration of the death penalty for the sake of political dialogue, peace, and national unity. In the event that any other prisoners are sentenced to death, we will be forced to reconsider our role in the ASEAN 5-point consensus. Myanmar military authorities reported on 25 July that it had executed 4 pro-democracy activists accused of helping carry out so-called terrorist activities, the first executions in Southeast Asia in decades. The 4 men were accused of helping the militia fight the Myanmar army that seized power in a coup last year. Prime Minister Hun Sen has expressed his desire to establish the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Secretariat to facilitate the effective implementation of the agreement, with Phnom Penh as the proposed Secretariat headquarters. EAC News reporter Dekanin has further details.
Speaking at the opening ceremony of the 55th ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting and related meetings on Wednesday morning at the Soka Hotel in Phnom Penh, Prime Minister Hun Sen called on the foreign ministers to discuss initiatives related to rehabilitation from COVID-19, with ASEAN having agreed to develop 4 strategies, one of which is to enhance the potential of ASEAN international markets and broader economic integration. He said he believes that in order to achieve these strategies, the region needs a regional comprehensive economic partnership secretariat to promote the effective implementation of the ASEAN agreement. He said Cambodia is ready for this RCEP secretariat in Phnom Penh and has prepared a detailed proposal. I hope that Cambodia can get the support of ASEAN member countries as well as other members of the ASEAN agreement when Cambodia formally submits its proposal. The RCEP agreement, which researchers see as beneficial to Cambodian and regional trade, took effect on the 1st of January 2022. Through this agreement, Cambodia will be able to export goods to 15 countries comprised of the 10 ASEAN members and 5 ASEAN partners, China, Japan, Korea, Australia, and New Zealand, accounting for 28% of the world's total trade volume, and many major commodities in agriculture, agro-processing, and industrial goods will be allowed to be imported to these countries with an average duty exemption of more than 90% for Cambodia. In addition to the exports of goods, Cambodia will also benefit from other aspects of the agreement, including the transfer of technology, knowledge, and skills from foreign direct investments, as well as the creation of new jobs for people in Cambodia. According to a study conducted by the Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia, through this free trade agreement, Cambodia is expected to grow 7.3% year-on-year in exports, 23.4% in investment, and about 2% in overall GDP. Dekanin, EAC News.
U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi arrived in Taiwan on Tuesday night as part of her current Asia tour, making her the highest-ranking U.S. official to visit the island in 25 years. On Wednesday morning, she visited Taiwan's parliament to meet with Deputy Speaker Tsai Chi-chang, then went on to meet with President Tsai Ing-wen at the presidential office. While meeting with Tsai Chi-chang at the Legislative Yuan early on Wednesday morning, Pelosi was quoted saying, "We come in friendship to Taiwan, we come in peace to the region." Later at the presidential office, President Tsai Ing-wen presented Pelosi with the special Grand Shu Qing-yun Medal in recognition of her contributions to enhancing exchange between the U.S. and Taiwan and for her long-standing support of the island. The Taiwanese president called Pelosi one of the island's most devoted friends and said, "Thank you for taking concrete actions to show your staunch support for Taiwan at this critical moment and for expressing the U.S.'s consistent policy supporting Taiwan's self-defense." Tsai further stressed that Taiwan would not be backing down despite heightened military threats from China. Pelosi emphasized that her delegation's visit to Taiwan was made to show support to the island and to make unequivocally clear that the U.S. will not abandon its commitment to Taiwan, saying the U.S. was proud of this enduring friendship. "Now more than ever, America's solidarity with Taiwan is crucial, and that is the message we are bringing here," she said, echoing her congressional delegation statement released on Tuesday night. Speaker Pelosi's visit comes at a time when relations between the U.S. and China have hit a particularly low point. It also defies the numerous stark warnings made by Beijing in the past few days, leading to soaring tensions between the two superpowers as China considers Taiwan to fall under its territory. Following the announcement of her arrival in Taipei, the Chinese Foreign Ministry issued a statement on Tuesday night saying that this visit is a serious violation of the One China principle and the provisions of the three China-U.S. joint communiques. Chinese state media also reported that China's military will hold drills near Taiwan from 4th to 7th August and had warplanes flying close to the median line dividing the Taiwan Strait on Tuesday before Pelosi's arrival, in addition to warships skirting close to the median line since Monday. China's retaliation to the U.S. visit also comes in the form of trade and exports, as its Commerce Ministry announced on Wednesday that it would be suspending sand exports to Taiwan, and Chinese Customs also announced that it would be suspending certain food imports from the island, specifically of some fruit and fish. In response to the heightened military threats, Taiwan's Defense Ministry stated on Wednesday that the drills conducted by the Chinese military violates United Nations rules and Taiwan's territorial sovereignty, blocking the island's air and sea and threatening its important ports and urban areas. The ministry said it has closely monitored and strengthened preparations and will respond appropriately in due time. Meanwhile, other countries in the region have responded with great concern over building tensions. Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary Hirokazu Matsuno expressed concern about the announced Chinese military drills in waters around Taiwan, as the maritime areas overlap with Japan's exclusive economic zone. An official from the South Korean presidential office has also called for dialogue to maintain regional peace and stability, saying, "Our government's stance is that we will maintain close communication with the nations concerned on all issues under the banner of the need for peace and stability in the region through dialogue and cooperation." North Korea, on the other hand, has vehemently denounced the U.S. visit, calling it an impudent interference and has expressed its full allied support to China. Speaker Pelosi and her delegation's public itinerary did not include a visit to Taiwan. Her next stops on the Asia tour are South Korea and Japan. However, so far Pelosi's only confirmed meeting in Seoul is with National Assembly Speaker Kim Jin-pyo. The South Korean presidential office has stated that it welcomes Speaker Pelosi's visit to Korea and looks forward to making many achievements during her meeting on Thursday.
请总统致辞，各位贵宾请就座。
President Tsai will now deliver.
The chairman of ASEAN in 2022, Prime Minister Hun Sen, has told the Russian foreign minister that he wants to see a peaceful solution to the Ukraine crisis, while also telling the EU representative and vice president of the European Commission to consider lifting sanctions on Russia. Speaking at a meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov at the Peace Palace on Thursday morning, Prime Minister Hun Sen said that Cambodia-Russia relations have a long history. He remembered and thanked the people of this former Soviet state for not abandoning Cambodia and supporting the country at a time when it was experiencing difficulties. However, in regard to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the Prime Minister told Foreign Minister Lavrov that Cambodia wants to see a peaceful solution to the crisis through negotiations. This morning, the Prime Minister also met with EU Representative for Foreign Affairs and Political Security and Vice President of the European Commission, Josep Borrell Fontelles. During the meeting, he frankly asked the EU to reconsider the sanctions it has placed on Russia, because these sanctions not only affect Russia, but also affect the global economy and society as a whole. There has been no response from the European side on this matter yet. Cambodia assumed the ASEAN chairmanship in 2022. There are many complex issues in different areas that Cambodia has to participate in solving, including the COVID-19 pandemic, the ongoing conflict in Myanmar, the Russia-Ukraine war, economic crises, and geopolitical competition between the superpowers. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation has released a statement regarding recent developments and rising tensions in the Taiwan Strait on behalf of the Royal Government of Cambodia. According to the statement, the Royal Government of Cambodia expresses its great concern over the recent rising tension in the Taiwan Strait and urges all parties involved to abide by the agreements reached by the People's Republic of China and the United States as stipulated in the joint communiques between both parties. The royal government consistently and firmly adheres to the One China policy and states that it considers issues related to Hong Kong, Taiwan, Tibet, and Xinjiang to be internal affairs and under the sovereign rights of the People's Republic of China. Finally, the royal government calls on all parties concerned to find a peaceful solution, maintain the status quo, and avoid any provocation for the sake of peace, stability, development, and prosperity in the region and the world. This statement was released in the context of heightened tensions between the United States and China following U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan as part of her ongoing Asia tour. China had repeatedly warned the U.S. against the visit, saying that it would be an infringement of their sovereignty, as China considers Taiwan to be under its territory. Following the announcement of the U.S. House Speaker's arrival in Taipei on Tuesday, the Chinese Foreign Ministry issued a statement saying that this visit is a serious violation of the One China principle and the provisions of the 3 China-U.S. joint communiques. Chinese state media also reported that China's military would hold drills near Taiwan from 4th to 7th August. Along with Cambodia, several countries in the region have responded with great concern over building tensions, including Japan and South Korea, while North Korea has expressed its full and allied support to China, calling the U.S. visit an impudent interference. Speaker Pelosi departed from Taiwan on Wednesday afternoon. The Chinese foreign minister has confirmed that China will continue to support Cambodia's future leaders and pledged to continue supporting Cambodia's further development as well. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi confirmed during a meeting with Prime Minister Hun Sen at the Peace Palace on Wednesday afternoon that China will continue to support Cambodia's national and international politics under Prime Minister Hun Sen's vision, especially in support of defending Cambodia's sovereignty. He added that China will continue to support Cambodia's future leaders as well. Minister delegate attached to the Prime Minister, Kao Kim-hoon, confirmed to the press after the meeting that China will continue to strongly support the future, especially to support the continuation of leadership, which is key to Cambodia's development, as well as friendship and cooperation between Cambodia and China. Prime Minister Hun Sen also confirmed to Foreign Minister Wang Yi that Cambodia is doing its best to maintain the friendship between Cambodia and China, adding that Cambodia will continue to maintain this friendship for a long time. At the meeting of the Central Committee of the Cambodian People's Party on 24th December 2021, the committee decided to put their trust in Prime Minister Hun Sen's son, Lieutenant General Hun Manait, voting for him to be the future prime ministerial candidate. The vote was made by all members of the Central Committee, with nearly 800 votes cast. CPP spokesperson Su Yara said after the votes were placed that this showcased the unity of the CPP to the world, adding that the party guarantees the protection of peace in Cambodia and the avoidance of persecution or geopolitical rivalry with and among superpowers. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Cambodia, Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn, announced at the ASEAN ministerial meeting that Minister Delegate attached to the Prime Minister, Kao Kum Hoon, will be appointed as the Secretary General of ASEAN in 2023. Senior Foreign Ministry official Kung Pok said in a press conference on Wednesday evening that Minister Kao Kim Hoon has been appointed as the new ASEAN Secretary General in 2023, with the support of all ASEAN foreign ministers. He said, in a closed meeting, His Excellency Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn also announced the appointment of His Excellency Dr. Kao Kim Hoon, Minister Delegate to the Prime Minister, as Secretary General of ASEAN, which will start from 2023. The appointment was also welcomed by the ASEAN foreign ministers. The ASEAN Secretary General has a 5-year term of office to administer and coordinate cooperation between ASEAN stakeholders to ensure adherence to the principles enshrined in the ASEAN Charter. The ASEAN Secretariat is currently led by Dato Lim Jock Hoi from Brunei. The ASEAN Secretariat was established in February 1976 by the ASEAN foreign ministers. The Secretariat, headquartered in Jakarta, Indonesia, was established in 1981. The Secretary of State of the Ministry of Social Affairs and Secretary General of the Disability Action Council, M. Chan Makara, has requested Rehabilitation International Korea to expand its rehabilitation project in Cambodia by providing wheelchair assistance to Disability Action Council to distribute to persons with disabilities in need. During the meeting on the cooperation agreement on the project to improve rehabilitation services for persons with disabilities on Wednesday morning, Secretary of State M. Chan Makara said that South Korea has progressed further than Cambodia in providing more facilities to persons with disabilities, both in terms of care and rehabilitation services. With this recognition, he urged RI Korea to expand its assistance program beyond Ong Snul Hospital in Cambodia by providing more material support. RI Korea Secretary General Yoo Myung-hwa said she is coming to Cambodia for the 3rd time to help Cambodia's strongest rehabilitation hospital. She added that she is now assisting hospitals in Ong Snul district, particularly in assisting the training of doctors and rehabilitation officers to improve their understanding of physical rehabilitation and IT. Regarding providing more material support to Cambodia through the provision of wheelchair assistance, she said she will develop a project to support this work. Lee Bum-suk, the president of the National Rehabilitation Center of RI Korea, also expressed his interest in the project, particularly the training of physiotherapists and physicians. Secretary of State M. Chan Makara also briefed RI Korea on the process of building the National Center for Persons with Disabilities in Ong Snul District and thanked RI Korea for its continued support of the disability sector in Cambodia. He also asked Korea to consider supporting the organization of the CBID meeting in 2023. China is likely to react with a show of force while the U.S. continues its provocations. War isn't starting today, but the crisis will deepen in the long term. China has made it clear that the move constitutes a massive provocation, undermines the foundation of U.S.-China relations, and would cause Beijing to retaliate.
In just a few hours, China began to interact its reaction. Airspace into Taiwan's adjacent province to Fujian has been closed. New sanctions have been tabled on Taipei and retaliation for being conflict in the visit, which has amounted to sweeping ban on food exports from 100 companies. Chinese planes have crossed the median line for the Taiwan Strait, and more military-based response appear to be installed. However, one should be prudent to note that all the anxiety and uncertainty, this is not going to be a declaration of war or invasion. China's intention is to make the show of force and deterrence the stake in its position on the Taiwan issue, not to spark the catastrophe. However, the danger does not lie in potentially destructive short-term reactions. Pelosi's visit, the fact of it happened, not the substance of what she does in Taipei, will set the stage for further US-China confrontation in the long term. It isn't worth going to war over Nancy Pelosi and China so much potential lose. It isn't stupid. Still, the severity of the visit can be underestimated. It is not one of the off event, but adds to a long pattern of provocations from the US, which is actively aiming to undermine the legacy of the One China policy. This includes Biden's recent comments as the US would defend Taiwan, the US encouragement of Lithuania to open in Taiwan, respectively, offers the scrubbing of references to the One China policy from the State Department website, and of course Tai's own bid to invite as many Western politicians as possible to the island, including reportedly paying them spurious amounts of money in a bid to oppose China and undermine possible ratifications. All this time, Beijing has been watching and issuing progressively more severe warnings. Pelosi's anniversary could be what the straw that broke the camel's back. It might be argued that her visit is a personal decision, but being the third most powerful individual in the US and the second in line for the presidency, Beijing sees her as a representative of Washington's will and cannot leave such a provocation unanswered.
Prime Minister Hun Sen sent a message to the man who said the Prime Minister does not know how to do politics, telling him to take a look at himself. The Prime Minister asserted that he actually used this man to amend the Constitution in 2006, changing it from previously requiring a two-thirds majority vote from the National Assembly to requiring 50% plus one votes instead. In 2006, opposition leader Sam Rainsy asked the National Assembly to amend the Constitution to change the formation of the government from requiring a two-thirds majority vote from the National Assembly to just a 50% plus one vote instead. Prime Minister Hun Sen revealed that this amendment was actually made as a result of his own green light. The Prime Minister stated this during his speech at the Royal University of Phnom Penh on Friday morning, where he received an honorary doctorate degree in development.
ហើយប្រហែលថ្ងៃនេះគេថាខ្ញុំល្ងងណាស់ហ៊ុនសែនល្ងងណាស់តែខ្ញុំគ្រាន់តែនិយាយបន្តិចប្រសិទ្ធបើហ៊ុនសែនល្ងងហ៊ុនសែនក៏មិនអាចឈរជើងរហូតទៅដល់បើនិយាយឲ្យឆ្ងាយបន្តិចគឺជាង45ឆ្នាំប៉ុន្តែនៅក្នុងអំណាច43ឆ្នាំអ្នកឯងបានចោទហ៊ុនសែនថាល្ងងណាស់ប៉ុន្តែត្រង់ហ៊ុនសែនប្រើអ្នកឯងឲ្យជួយកែរដ្ឋធម្មនុញ្ញឯងប្រើក្បាលអ្នកឯងឲ្យជួយកែរដ្ឋធម្មនុញ្ញអ្នកឯងល្ងងអីគេអញ្ចឹងវាអន់ណាស់ឲ្យមនុស្សល្ងងប្រើបាននោះបញ្ចប់ហើយ
Due to a stalemate in the formation of the royal government, members of the National Assembly from both the Cambodian People's Party and the Sam Rainsy Party joined together in 2006 to amend the constitution so that forming a government would no longer require a two-thirds majority vote and would instead require a vote of 50% plus one. Once the amendment was approved and put in place, it became so that the party that is able to win 50% plus one votes from the National Assembly is able to then form the government without opposition. Prime Minister Hun Sen has ordered the Secretary of State of the Ministry of Health, Yuk Sambat, to test the monkeypox vaccine from Russia. The Prime Minister made this order while receiving an honorary doctorate degree in development from the Royal University of Phnom Penh this Friday morning. He said that monkeypox seems to be more difficult to treat than COVID-19. According to Prime Minister Hun Sen,